Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to another amazing episode of the Moscova Media Podcast over here on the Moscova Media Network. And thank you to our sponsor, Moscova Enterprises. If you check the info in the description, you can check out the digital marketing course we have for sale to people that are interested in getting their marketing going and then more exclusive and better. So be sure to check that out, as well as our other site, MoscovaEnterprises.com. And again, want to thank all the wonderful listeners. We see you all over the globe, and we really, really thank you for checking out those ads and helping us keep the show going and support. It's a real thing that you guys are listening because it's showing in our numbers, and we're thankful for that because we just started our new season, and we're going strong already. Got a great foundation of over 100 episodes that you can go in the archives and check out all the great information that we've already shared from some great, intelligent people all over the globe that really have amazing ideas and tips that you may not have thought about yet. So definitely be sure to check out the archives and just go through all the podcast episodes and see what jewels are relevant to you that you can pick out of the bunch. And we have a lot as far as solutions and not just inspiration, but actual ideas and how-tos as far as getting your life in order, getting your business in order, as well as other topics at hand, maybe your health or your family or mostly business. I'm not going to front. You also have a lot for actors and actresses, as well as people in management. A lot of great people we've had on, and a lot more amazing people. We got some celebs that are coming on soon, so I'm thankful for that. And we will continue to get it up popping with that exclusive Moscova style of information. Getting my language on or whatnot. But shout out to the people over in North America. Matter of fact, all of America, North, South, and Central. Everyone that's over there, as well as my peeps in Africa, specifically West Africa, as well as my homies in Europe, thank you to my European brothers and sisters. Appreciate the likes of you for listening. I want to get over in Lithuania, Estonia. I keep it G. I keep it 100. I didn't go to geography class and get good grades for no reason. I'm not. Also, I want to hit up France. That's an easy country to mention, but a lot be going down in France, and I want to connect with people and the youth over there. So shout out to France, and I'm not going to forget about Big E, Big England, UK, Big UK. Shout out to UK, as well as shout out to our strong listeners in India. I see y'all. Real talk. Y'all have overtaken U.S. listeners, which is pretty amazing because we're based over here in U.S. So shout out to my English-speaking Indian folk over there. Be sure to check out the archives as well, and thank you for listening. And let's see how we can collaborate on the two countries, two areas of the world, or all the areas, really, not just talking to Indian people, and start to see how my guests can impact your world over there. I hear there's a big issue with males and females in India as far as little girls getting raped or whatnot. So if you're listening over in India, that's not civilized. That's not what we do over here in America. I mean, that's not what we support over here in America or anywhere else, especially on this podcast. So if that's something you're into, I would advise you to stop. We have a lot of great females that come on here. I support everybody. I love everybody. Even my feminists, I love y'all too, as crazy as y'all could be with your ideas. We love everybody, So as far as this public service announcement, this is Vikings from the U.S. Asking y'all to figure out what y'all can do to stop that ish, because it's not cool. As much as I know what's going on with feminism and the sexism war that's happening, that's not how us men are gonna be going about this war. I suggest you peeps all over in India start looking at YouTube and search MGTOW, MGTOW, as well as SYS BM, as well as hashtag IBMore, and check out what some of us fellas over here are talking about and meeting about and speaking about as far as this sexism war that's going on with women, and learn how we are. I'll do a whole show about it, but the gist of it is basically to figure out how to better your own life with or without a female, and to do things that actually improve your not your way of living, but the quality of your living situation. Like, do that for yourself before you start trying to invite another female into your world. And then when you get rejected or whatnot, I'm talking to the peeps in India that are actually doing these crimes, not everyone, because we're all not about that. And then when you get rejected, you want to attack that female. That's not cool, and that's not how we roll. When you look up those hashtags, MGTOW, IBMore, SYSBM, you'll see the millions of guys that we're just, we understand what's going on with the females, and in a way we're turning our back on them, but in a respectful and safe way, and we're not demanding anything. We're just, again, like I said, we're figuring out how we can actually improve our own lives and to live better and to travel, to eat healthier, exercising, making more money as far as increasing income streams. That's something else I'll start to speak about more on the podcast. And And that's basically it. And then if a female comes that can understand your paradigm, shout out to Kevin Samuels, the guy that blew up speaking about these issues. But there's a lot more guys out there that speak on these topics. Kevin usually has them on his show. And we're moving on. We're moving forward. We're not letting, these things get to us. We need to have some sort of discipline of our not only genitalia but our mind, spirit, and body. Our life is a lot more than sex. So I don't want to get off on a tangent, but that's something that when a 9-year-old girl is in the news in India, that's not something you can really take lightly or as a joke. But let's get back to more lighthearted things. Football season has started. My Raiders won in overtime the other day. I'm happy about that. Tom Brady's looking like he's about to start doing his thing again. So that's going to be, what is the 7th or 8th championship? I think that Mother Love is trying to get like one ring on each finger. But shout out to Tom Brady. I used to hate the guy, but after a certain time, after a while, you got to respect the high level of excellence. I mean, I'm all about that excellence, but to see it is amazing to me. So shout out to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't do betting on here, but let's see what happens. And let's continue to support, all these amazing sports. Basketball season's supposed to be starting soon. Lakers are looking like they're racked up. I don't understand how LeBron is able to just pick and choose on damn near any player he wanted once. Almost, I think he wanted Damian Lillard, didn't get him. Damian's deciding to stay because Giannis won a championship without creating a quote-unquote super team. But he had a healthy team throughout the playoffs, so Giannis was damn near destined to win that championship because it's like everything that could go right certainly did for him and that team, even when they were down two games to the Brooklyn Nets, who a lot of their players got hurt. So be sure to check out these sports over here in the U.S. There's a lot of different sports I'm trying to get into, like cricket. A lot of guys are playing it over here in Islip, New Jersey, which is like Little India. So I know y'all know about it. But yeah, I again want to thank y'all listeners for what y'all do, because without y'all it'd be pretty whack doing this show. So I want to thank you and all the great guests and all the great technology out there that's continuing to aid in me building what I got to build over here in the U.S. of A. But part of this show is to allow amazing people and guests to come on and build their brand and talk about their brand and what they do and their inspiring story, which is why I was really, really blessed and to have Alex Brueckmann to come on our show today, and he's actually on the line. But this guy is a strategy entrepreneur, author, and speaker who actually built companies in Europe and Canada and led client projects across the world, actually. His passion lies in helping clients build profitable businesses rooted in purpose and impact. In his upcoming book, Alex presents a new framework called the 9 Elements of Organizational Identity, together with a step-by-step process to bring it into life. So he not only created a book, but he created a framework that, can assist us and it's step-by-step, and that's what a lot of people actually need, the actual steps on what actually to do. Now, Alex has a Strategy Masterclass that's coming up in early 2022, so you guys can sign up for that. And it's a virtual summit for entrepreneurs, business owners, and startups, and a heap of things going on. So today we are blessed to welcome Alex to the show today, and it's really an honor. And thank you, Alex, for coming on today. Thank you so much. How are you?
Thank you for having me, man. I'm really good. Thank you very much. Thanks for the intro.
Anytime, brother, man. You're doing amazing work. I see you have an upcoming book coming out, so that's pretty cool. Did you drop any other books before that?
It's actually the first one I ever wrote, and I have to admit, writing a book is something you should not take lightheartedly. It's a lot of work, and I realized in the process that creating a cohesive book from having the readers front and center to deliver strong value is even more difficult than just writing down whatever you have in your brain, right? So you can write a book just like that, download everything that's on your mind, kind of a bucket list thing. I always wanted to talk about topic X, Y, Z, so you do it, or you write a book, download everything, and then ask yourself, okay, now that I downloaded it, how can I make it reader-centric so that people can actually do something with it once they read it, make it actionable? So there was quite a challenge, and I'm very grateful for the support that I had along the ride. Many great people supported me on that journey. Really grateful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, making the book cohesive to people is definitely part of the user experience. So that I can see how that could be important to you. How are you actually publishing? Are you self-publishing, or are you going through a company, a publishing company?
We are hoping to have the book released by a publishing house early next year, 2022. So I don't know how familiar you and your listeners are with book publishing. You mentioned the two big streams already. So you can do self-publishing, which basically means you take the book, PDF it, and upload it onto Amazon, for example. And it's actually a very cheap and fast way to publish a book. But you probably know that 99% of all books that are self-published, maybe even more, never get actually across the 100 or 200 downloads. So it's pretty much guaranteed that no one's going to read your book if you do the self-publishing way. There are only a very, very, very small number of people that successfully self-published a book, so that it became a book that people talk about, and so that you really impact the life of other people. So I decided to go the difficult route through a traditional publishing house. And the first step you need to take is to find a so-called literary agency. Those are the guys that actually then take your book under contract and market it in a way that a publishing company wants to buy the rights to publish the book. And if you have ever tried to find a literary agency to take you under contract, you know how difficult that is. I was very, very lucky, very early in the process of thinking about which literary agent might be a good fit for me and my book. I ran across the Rights Factory in Toronto, and Sam, who is the CEO, he read the first 50 pages and said he would love it and I should send it over. We had a chat, and ever since he's been incredibly supportive in the whole publishing journey. He's a great human being and a person that takes his job really serious to help authors get published. So finding a literary agent is the first barrier you need to overcome, because the publishing houses actually don't talk to you as an author. They talk to the literary agent.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. But you actually went through all those steps, and even though you're doing it the harder way, should have a greater result. And that makes sense, because most people don't really understand how to market and do PR for a book, or any type of project. So putting it out on a platform but not having any kind of network or marketing or opportunities to be in the public, make it pretty difficult to obtain sales, a lot of sales beyond friends and family.
Totally.
So that makes sense. Yeah.
You can have the best content, but if no one knows about it, it's just sitting there and helping no one.
Right. And luckily, social media has given us a way to put our stuff out. But, you know, like you say, you know, there's a lot more people and tools that you can use with these publishing houses. And again, literary agents, as you mentioned. Now, you do have this book coming out. I know you're not finished with it yet, and you also have a class that you're coming up with. But what are some aspects of the book that you wanted to put in there that you wanted to share with people that you felt were important?
Yeah, the book is, as you mentioned in the intro, it's around the 9 elements of organizational identity. It basically talks about how you can use a strategy process, whether you are an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, or even a leader in a large organization. The process is more or less the same. It's the same steps. It's just the time it takes to go through it that varies depending on your company size. So if you're listening now and you're a corporate leader, or if you are a small entrepreneur, it's both, for both of you, this is super valid. The book and also the masterclass that launches in 2022 is about how can you use a strategy framework, a strategy process in your organization to create more than just a business strategy. So it's not just about increasing your competitiveness. It's also about asking yourself on the way, how do those different pieces of our identity as a company support strategy? And how do we make sure that we're not just in it for the money? How do we make sure that we use what we do every day, that we use the connections that we have and the relationships that we build as a force for change and for creating something better, a better world, more just, more sustainable, both socially speaking and environmentally speaking? And how do you bring this together in a cohesive document that addresses the strategic business topics and the strategic, let's say, social and environmental topics? In other words, how do you build a company that is both purpose-driven to create positive impact and at the same time generates the profits that you need in order to live well?
That's funny. I actually that's something that's become more and more prevalent in my field as far as not only working with these type of companies, but actually working to create them. Do you have any examples of some of these type of companies that either you've worked with or that you know of that are coming about?
There are many great examples of companies that managed to build a business that is not only profitable, but also a force for positive change. Some of those businesses have been around for a long time and have been doing this for over decades. One example is, my absolute favorite one is Patagonia, the apparel and gear company, US company. Over decades, they've supported environmental protection causes with 1% of their annual sales. So they dedicate tons of money in that direction, and also don't stop there. They become active, they become involved, they link people, clients of theirs that would like to join environmental protection causes. So they link activists and campaigns, for example. But they don't stop there either. They take a stand when it comes to their convictions and their values. And they actually just recently ended the contract with a ski resort in the US. And the shops there, they will not provide any Patagonia apparel in the future to them to sell, because they actually hosted a fundraising event and a partisan event for members of the US Republican Party that are known for basically neglecting that there is something like climate change. And because of that, they said, sorry guys, we cannot sell our products to you anymore and help you make money if you guys at the same time support people that actually deny that there is an environmental emergency, that doesn't match our values. So that's a company that goes above and beyond what you would expect a for-profit company to do. but they decided that this is what they are all about. They are not about making money at all cost. They are about making enough money and at the same time using their influence, using what they have to bring for positive change. Now, Patagonia is certainly one of the absolute shining lights. It doesn't mean you need to rebuild your business into a Patagonia lookalike, but you can always ask yourself, in my little business, in my small part of the sandbox, what can I do to build a business that is socially and environmentally speaking more sustainable than it is now? What can I do to reduce our carbon footprint? What can I do to support the just thing out there? For example, in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement, many companies took a stand. Others didn't. And it's usually those who suffer that don't benefit if you stay silent. If you speak up, you support those who suffer. If you stay silent, you support those who oppress. So it was important for me to see that companies spoke up and used their voice to help people that needed help. And there's even more that you can do as a small business or as a large corporation. You can ask yourself, even if something is not necessarily connected to the core of my business, like Patagonia, for example, they produce apparel. They are not an environmental protection agency, but they combine those things, right? For example, with my little part of the world in my business, I support childhood brain cancer research. My business cannot support it in a sense that I can offer my resources as a business person, as a strategist. That really doesn't match. But what I can do is I can use the events I run to raise funds. I can use my website to raise awareness and all these things. So there is something above and beyond what you do that you can give back to the people around you, to the society you live in, to the community you operate in, or to the environment if you want.
Wow, that's amazing. I haven't really thought about it that way, and that makes a lot of sense, especially as all these different companies rise in subscriber and their user bases. They're rivaling countries such as Facebook, which has billions of people on it. It's rivaling the number of people in some of the major countries. Would you say a company like Ben & Jerry's, which said it would stop selling in Israel-occupied countries, would this be an example of what you're stating?
I'm not necessarily knowledgeable about that example, so it would be difficult for me to take a stand on that.
Oh, well, I'll break it down a little bit. Ben & Jerry's, which is an ice cream company, started by these two guys in Hollywood over here in U.S. This ice cream is very popular and has so many different types of flavors, and they were selling in Israel, like Israel and the occupied spaces over there. And one day Ben & Jerry's decided that they weren't going to sell over there because of what they were doing to the what Israel has been doing to the Palestinian people, as far as taking them out of their actual living spaces and taking over it piece by piece in an attempt to take over the whole land area. Ben & Jerry's said that they're not going to be selling ice cream there anymore, and it created a small uproar. And Ben & Jerry's is continuing to push along.
Yes, this is definitely an example of a company standing up to their values. So however they justified it, if their cause was, we would love to raise the awareness about what's going on in Israel and Palestine, and that they do not agree with some of the settler movement there, and then the hardcore right-wing people that would not agree to a peaceful transition, then this is an example of how they as a company support this cause. Now, I don't know too much about the background and whether, for example, the founders of Ben & Jerry were involved whether they have family ties there or friends, or what the initial root cause for their decision was. But it's certainly an example for a company that stands up to what they believe in and use their voices to raise awareness about a certain issue.
Right. And, you know, this is different versus a company versus a person trying to speak out. The African-American community over here in U.S. has had a lot of leaders attempt to speak out against injustices or whatnot, and they have become assassinated. One of the most recent would be the leader of Haiti, who wasn't with the vaccine requirements being pushed on by the First Nations. So I do realize that a company, a business entity, can afford people some sort of protections because it's a business entity on paper, just ran by people. But how is a company or a person running a company going to use their own business entity to do that, and while being protected? Like, how can they do that and remain behind the veil, the corporate veil, or protected, so that, you know, they don't become a target? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally does make sense. I mean, if you raise your voice in situations where a lot is at stake, you need to be prepared, both as a person and as an organization, to take the storm that will come your way. Make no mistake. Last week, when the Salesforce CEO announced that in the wake of the change in the abortion law in the U.S. state of Texas, they would help people to move out of the state, I don't think everyone loved that message, that Salesforce as a major company supports, first of all, does not support the new abortion law that basically robs women of the right to take a decision. And second of all, there are certainly a lot of hardcore conservatives and right-wing people that will make an effort to throw whatever they have at both the CEO of the company and the company as such. So of course you need to be prepared for that. If you are not prepared for that, you should not stand up and speak out in public when it comes to topics that are, let's say, very, very hot. If you touch something hot, you can burn your hands. You need to be prepared to do that in a proper way. And if a company wants to take a stand, they need to have protection measures in place to both from a PR perspective and also from a human being perspective, to offer the protection that's needed. Now, thank God, we are not living in the dark ages anymore. Most countries support freedom of speech, and of course, there are people that do not oblige to those laws and would assassinate people and would try to oppress freedom of speech. Thank God, these are not. It's not the rule; it's rather the exception. Every life lost is one too many, of course, and we need to be prepared as a society to take a stand on these things and to speak up and say no to that if it happens, and make it, just as it happened with the Black Lives Matter movement, make it a topic that is so loud that no one can avoid it, if that makes sense.
Right. So from your perspective, to make sure there's a good PR team on board that can help with that, as well as making sure that the person's mental health is intact, and to be able to support that in whichever way possible. and I guess also making sure that you have a good legal team to support.
Absolutely. It's part of your if you speak up as a company, you can't just do that. Before you can do that, you need to have everything in place. You need to have your PR team, your marketing team, your legal team. You have to have them aligned. They need to know that you will speak up, to be prepared for whatever comes their way. And we're not only talking about mental health. This is super important, and I'm really glad that you mentioned it. If you speak up and there's a shitstorm coming your way on your social and emails and maybe even physically, the company needs to be able to protect you. Otherwise, why should you stick your neck out for a company when the company would not be able to protect you, right?
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. You actually have to have, in a sense, the company becomes almost like you become a general with a small army, even though they may not have swords.
Yeah.
They have pens, and they can, if it's a lawyer, they could be sure to protect you in that way. If you have a good accountant, you can make sure that there's no holes that could be used against you with either IRS or taxes or anything, as well as making sure everybody's, like you say, is on the same accord, so that, you guys can move forward as a unit and a team, not just to speak out against injustices, but to make sure that the company is actually a strong business entity first, then that could be used as a tool to speak out or whatnot through the company. So that makes a lot of sense. So as far as the 9 elements of organizational identity, you did speak on that a bit, but I was wondering if you could go a bit more into that as far as what they are, or how, what are some of the steps that people can actually start taking?
Yeah, I'm glad they do that. We started talking about the core process of it, right? Using the strategy design process to touch not only strategy, but also the elements that sit around it. And you can imagine those 9 elements grouped into 3 buckets or into 3 layers. The base layer that you need to have in place in order to build a successful business, you need to know your purpose. And if I talk about purpose, this is actually what we already talked about, the topic of why. Why is your company there? It's definitely more than just making money. If not, think again, I would say, because you need to have a deeper rooted purpose in place in order to stay the course when times get tough. There will be times when you don't make a lot of money. There will be times when companies go through tough times of change. And without that North Star, without that guiding, shining light that your purpose is and should be, it is tough to stay the course in rough waters. And you should actually go one step beyond purpose. You should talk about, if that's our purpose, that is nice, that's our intent. But what is actually the impact that we want to see once we live up to that intention? So that is the first element you need to weave into your business, purpose and impact. The second one is you need to define what you actually do. That's what I call a mission. It's basically your business definition. It needs to be no frills, just one sentence. What is it that you do and for whom do you do it? No fancy adjectives, just to align everyone on what is it that we do? What is it that we deliver? And as weird as that may sound, I have talked to tons of clients and worked with tons of businesses that were not clear on what they actually do and for whom they do it. The moment you align your people around that, the moment they have a better understanding of what it actually is that they're producing, what is the product, what is the service, who are the clients, that just channels everything into one direction. Super, super powerful. And then you need to talk about something I call guiding principles. And what I mean with that is sort of your values as a company, combined with your purpose and the impact that you want to create. Your values provide a very solid framework within you operate as a company, and that every person in that company, no matter how big or small that company is, can relate to. What we often see in companies is something called a code of conduct, which is basically the result of being clear on your values. So once you have your values in place, basically what's valuable for you, what you're not willing to compromise, and what you are basically willing to get punished for in the end by maybe even losing clients because you stand to your values, that is something that you can then take and formulate into a code of conduct. So your values become, they inform and influence desired behaviors. And that can be leadership behaviors, that can be behaviors when selling, that can be behaviors, desired behaviors when in touch with clients, how you should behave and operate with a press, and all these things can be in a code of conduct. Once you have this in place, that's the base layer, right? That's the grounds of which you operate. Then we talk about the second group of elements, which are your strategy, your vision, and those things are closely connected. So your vision is basically a desired state of your company some years down the road, and your strategy is your plan to actually get there. And that is some people really don't get the concept of strategy. They think way too complex. Strategy is actually very easy. It is a description of how you want to reach a certain state in the future. And you need to make it measurable, right? So you need to know which performance indicators, which success indicators you want to take a look at on a regular basis in order to see that you're moving towards that desired state in the future over time. And that brings us to the third element in this central bucket, which are goals, measurable strategic goals. And then you move into the third bucket, which contains the final three elements, which help you bring the first 6 elements to life. And that's basically everything that you need to do in order to enable and empower your people and your leadership population in an organization to live up to values, to understand the purpose and the desired impact of a company, and help every individual understand what their contribution is to bring a company's identity and strategy to life. So we're talking about capability building, both for leaders and individual contributors. We talk about breaking down strategic goals into individual targets and helping people understand how their small piece of the sandbox fits into the bigger picture, which creates incredible motivation for people if they understand how they contribute to the greater good, to the bigger picture. And we basically also need to talk about, and that's the 9th element, to talk about management systems. So once you have gone through a massive change process, and a good strategy always brings change, because otherwise, if it doesn't, what's the point, right? So if we talk about change, we also need to talk about how do we adjust how we run our company to this new strategy. Because the systems that you have in place typically support the status quo to keep the company stable. Change kind of destabilizes the company in certain elements. So you need to make sure that your new processes, your new structures in your organization help you perform and help you bring this new strategy to life. So these are the 3 buckets in a nutshell with the 9 elements in them.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really great how you put that together in a framework that could support so many people and companies. You also have a Strategy Masterclass that's coming up in 2022. So how can people connect with you with the Masterclass if they want to sign up for it or get your services?
Glad you asked. So the Masterclass will go live somewhere around Q1 2022, most likely towards the end. And it basically helps you as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, or a corporate leader to break down the 9 elements of organizational identity and apply them to your reality. So really where you are. And at the end of this masterclass, what you hold in your hands is your strategic plan with all the elements in place. So this is not just a masterclass where you sit and listen. It's actual work. I help you also in one-on-one coaching sessions during the masterclass to write down your strategic plan and build a more profitable and more impactful business. If you want to know more about the masterclass and connect with me on social or read some of my free toolkits and articles, just go to my website. It's all there. It's all free. alexthestrategist.com, and be my guest.
That's great. alexthestrategist.com, and you can reach out to Mr. Alex Brueckmann. Am I pronouncing Brueckmann right? Where are you from, by the way?
You're pronouncing it as good as it gets in North America. I actually live in Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada, but I'm originally from Germany.
Oh, awesome. Great. Well, I appreciate you stopping by the podcast. You are such an amazing person, business strategist, doing amazing things for people all over the globe. We really appreciate you for putting all that together, as well as the summit and the upcoming book that you have coming out. And the book, I could assume that people could get it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble when it comes out, but how can people get that book should they just go to your website?
The easiest way is actually to sign up for my email community. It's a newsletter that comes out bi-weekly, which means every second week, that offers free resources where I talk about certain topics. It's not a sales newsletter or something, so don't worry, I won't bombard you with stuff. I provide videos, for example, of my literary agent that talks about how books are being published that help you understand what's going on behind the scenes. And in that newsletter, I will also obviously announce when the book is being published. So if you sign up for that newsletter, that's definitely the best way to get notified.
Perfect. So all the listeners out there, be sure to go to his website, sign up for that newsletter, and you will be able to get to that virtual summit as well as be first to know about his book when it drops. So again, Alex, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and speaking about your truths and your ideas that are helping people all over. And thanks again, and take care. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you, my friend.
And there you have it, my Moscova Media Podcast listeners. I appreciate y'all for stopping by once again. As you can see, we have the heavy hitters dropping the major jewels on this podcast all the time. And, they also have things outside the podcast, tools and books and summits and, that you can virtually connect with or get mailed to your house. So, it doesn't have to stop here. We can continue to expand and get better and, to do better things with ourselves and businesses all over. And, we can provide products and services that not only support the community, but we can use our businesses to impact positive social change. So, there's so much good that's out there, and I know you can do it too. So be sure to continue to listen to these podcasts for even more ideas and great people to follow. Again, be sure to go to alexthestrategist.com, connect with him on his social media, and you will be able to have even more and more greatness come your way, because that's what we're about over here on the Moscova Media Podcast. And I know you wonderful people out here all over the globe, from U.S. to Germany to Canada, to different places in Canada, whether it be Ghana, Liberia. You are all loved, and you have someone out there named Vigas Moscova with his podcast and all his social media. If I'm talking about myself in third person, Follow me on Instagram at vmoscova, or go to my website, moscovaenterprises.com, or be sure to check out the link below on the description for the digital marketing course, where you can get some, some basic foundational strategy to get your marketing pushing and going, whether it be social media, building an app or website. It's all there in that course. So again, thank y'all for listening to the podcast. Thank you again to SAG-AFTRA for signing us on board. We appreciate you, SAG-AFTRA, as well as all the different networks, iVox over in Spain, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Thank you, Spreaker. Thank you for allowing us to be on board with y'all and spreading our awareness of not only our podcast, but the great people we have on board. And we will continue to share great guests with y'all that have great, amazing products, services, and even just ideas or inspiration. Because that's what we do over here, because we want to focus on a better world, a new world, a place where we all can, live happily. So that's what we're working over here as far as changing the frequency out here to something very higher. So again, this is your man, Vicence Moscova. Bonjour. Everyone, merci beaucoup. Parlez-vous français? Oui, moi haïtien. So shout out to my Haitians. We are here, and thanks again, and peace out.